So, for my pathway to literacy, I'd really like to look at my historic literacy. What really got me excited about history and culture, and how I got to where I am today. So, I would say it's been a world journey. I've been lucky enough to have the chance to live abroad multiple times and really open my eyes to other cultures. And I think that's helped me become a more rounded person and more knowledgeable about history in general. Now, I would say it all started at Old Trail School. I was lucky enough to have a very good education there and had teachers that were extremely supportive of reading and delving into your own personal interests. I was a big fan of the Animorphs books and the Hardy Boys. And I also got really sparked by the Indiana Jones movie series. I thought it was awesome to see a college professor running around the world and having all these crazy adventures, but at the same time, he was somewhat based in history and archaeology, which eventually would be my undergraduate degree. So from there, I went through middle school at Old Trail and then went to high school, where my freshman year, me and my mom made a little wager that if I could pull straight A's in French class, that she would take me to any French-speaking country. And luckily enough, I pulled straight A's. So me, her, and my aunt went to Paris, France for a brief stay. And that really opened up my eyes, and it was the first real big international trip that I did where I went to a country that their language was predominantly not English. So that really sparked my interest in understanding other cultures and other histories. So in high school, I was also really influenced by an AP American history teacher, Mr. Kelly. He was an old guy, but he was really knowledgeable about history and really had lots of personal anecdotes and stories that tied to history together. So I really got into his classes and trying to understand the U.S. history more. And then I graduated high school and moved on to the College of Worcester. At that point, I really thought I wanted to get into politics. Thought I was going to be the next politician to come around and change the world. And then took a poli-sci class and decided it was not for me. Did not like it at all. And wanted a complete change, had a complete change of heart. And I took an archaeology class just on a whim. It sounded interesting. So I took the archaeology class, and the professor, who's the head of the department, Dr. Cardulius, became a great inspiration for me all through 4 years of Worcester and really helped out my whole career in history and archaeology. At Worcester, I had the opportunity to do 2 study abroad summers. The first one was in Färösund, Sweden, which is a small town on the island of Gotland, and I got to work at an archaeological site. We were actually excavating a 12th century farmstead. So we were looking at the farms and how the houses were laid out and what trash pits were around the exterior of the house. And I thought that was great. It's fascinating studying, and I was able to do it in a foreign country and really tie in what I was going to school for with understanding someone's history. And that was great. And then the second study abroad trip that I had was I did a historical program in Siena, Italy, where we took 2 history classes on the streets of Siena. Once again, I was able to experience all these world cultures and understand that history is real, that people lived at one point and those were their interactions and how they lived. And that just got me more and more fascinated with history. So coming back from Siena, I was going into my senior year at Worcester. And at the College of Worcester, you have to do a senior independent study. It's basically a senior thesis. So I did my senior thesis based on the archaeological record of economic patterns in the Caribbean focusing on Port Royal and Barbados and Nevis. So what we looked at was this fascinating thing where people were spending a lot of money in the Caribbean and that you don't see in any other time in history prior to. The middle class was developing into a consumer society. But through that project, I also spent a lot of time in the library and got to connect with historical records as well as reading archaeological records from the various digs that happened throughout the Caribbean. It really helped me understand how to read primary sources and how to read secondary sources to understand the previous work that other historians and archaeologists have done. And that's key to really understanding and connecting to a person's culture. So I finished IS, graduated, and didn't really know what the next step was. So on a whim, I decided I would move to the Republic of Georgia and work as an English teacher. It was a great opportunity. I lived in a little village called Ahuti and got to connect with the people there over the lack of electricity, internet connection, and just the differences in our cultures. It was a great eye-opening experience. And also I was able to work with children, and it really made me rethink things as I saw teaching as a potential career. So that leads me to where I am now. I decided that I wanted to move out of Ohio and come to Chicago to continue my education at DePaul and experience yet another different city to live in. I think it's a great opportunity to continue my education and continue my literacy because it's an ongoing process and you can't call yourself historically literate and then stop. You have to keep on going and keep on striving to learn, and that's what I hope to do in Chicago for the near future. So thanks for listening to my pathway to historic literacy,